Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the latest episode of SchmoeTalks. That is right, we are back once again. My name is Aaron Knoll. Thank you guys for tuning in once again, and I am super excited. We have two big interviews back to back from people who I feel like don't for the important work they do just don't get mentioned or thought of as much in terms of when you're looking to speak to someone. Last week I had the great Jeremy Adams, someone I'm happy to call a friend, who is one of the question writers for the Schmoedown on. And this week I am joined by the man who is responsible for, I'll safely say, most of, if not all the incredible original tracks you now hear for the Schmoedown, Mr. David B. First off, David, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Good, good. Happy to have you here, man. And yeah, I say most of to be safe, but everything's got to be you at this point, right?
Just it's really just the themes. When it comes to the promo stuff, Eric, Nerd Chronic,
Yes.
he uses a sound library called Epidemic.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically like I don't know how much they pay a year. It's basically they pay for like a license to use their library, and that's
Okay.
usually what he uses. But I mean, all right, all the factions except for Swag, all those themes I wrote. I wrote themes for Mike. I wrote a theme for Chance. Who else? Wrote a theme for Adam Collins recently. Wrote
Okay.
wrote the theme for Video Drew. Wrote the theme for I'm starting to lose tracks. I have like at least 20 tracks I've written since I've started working there. But yeah, pretty much I just write the original themes, like the entrance theme music. So and
Which
it's
is still
yeah, go
incredible
for it.
in and of itself because every time they play, you hear it. You know, as you said, 7 out of 8 factions. So it means every time somebody's not dripping, you're hearing your music. So
Yeah,
that's
he
pretty
pretty much.
incredible.
Yeah, the only theme I didn't write was Swags and I think Andrew. No, not Andrew. I'm sorry. Alex Damon got a theme from Epidemic.
Okay.
Other than that, pretty much anytime Christian announces and his opponent and up first, all that stuff, it's most likely me.
Yeah, and that's incredible because I would, uh, that a lot of that music is really well done, and we'll get into it
Thank
later.
you.
But I'm sure the transition from going from what they used to be able, because between most likely being now part of a company and YouTube being YouTube,
Yep.
copyright's such a difficult thing to get around. And I think it really, really makes the difference that someone who is as talented and passionate as yourself is working on the music, because it substitutes in what you don't get from like hearing something you may recognize.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's interesting you bring that up because yeah, originally, like we all remember the Schmoedown for like the first what 5, 6 seasons. Oh God, what season are we on now? Nine, eight, eight,
8.
7 was the Magic season. Like the first like 5 to 6, it was mostly copyrighted music. And back in the Collider days when Christian was doing a Collider Live, he kind of mentioned like yeah, the Schmoedown streams and the Schmoedown like YouTube channel. Anytime we have a match, we don't make money off of it because immediately it gets copyright strike because we used X, Y, and Z from a
Mhm.
movie. You know what I mean? And obviously like me coming from like the fan perspective, like I liked the Schmoedown. I was watching Collider Live and stuff, and when I heard that, I was like, I wonder if like maybe I could throw my hat in there. And it was kind of like a dream at that point. Like I don't know if
Right.
it'll happen. I was still kind of like trying to trying to finish school and what have you. So um, but yeah, I just get into it then. Like I don't know if you guys remember like there was one Collider show where it was I don't know if you can hear my dog. He's been so needy
It's not
today.
that loud.
He's been barking all day. He's been so needy. But there was a Collider show where like they started just kind of ranting about clickbait, like oh the fans complaining about clickbait, and they just
Yeah,
kind of went on this
yeah.
random rant. And then at the end of that day, it was a Friday. I remember that Christian was like, you know what I would love it if fans like wrote a song about clickbait. And when he said that, I was like, challenge accepted. And I took that
We'll do
whole
it.
weekend to write my clickbait song. Submitted it over I think like literally on Sunday, just kind of like out of the blue DM'd Christian, not expecting him to read it. I was like, he's a busy dude, whatever. And like immediately, at like 3 minutes after I sent, he was like, "Oh my god, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard. Please submit it to this email address. Like, what? Okay. And
Okay.
that following, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, whatever, they like had 4 clickbait tracks they chose out of. And to my great surprise, because I'm more of a metal guy and I liked Thrawn's, which was the third one, I think. I
Yeah.
won. And I kind of, I mean, this isn't gloating, but I kind of won by a landslide. Like everyone in the room voted for mine. And then the poll was like, I had like 70% of the vote. It was kind of ridiculous. And I was like, holy crap. Like, I was not expecting that because I literally just took like 2 days just like goofing off, like, whatever, I'll put these basic punk rock chords in it, little solo, who cares? Here's some goofy lyrics. But I don't know, like I always tell people like, and if anyone's ever seen me interviewed, like I tell a story a lot, but I always kind of took that as like, oh, maybe I do have like a legitimate shot to do this. Like if everyone in that room like liked my song, maybe I could do something. And then lo and behold, I went to a live event and I got to meet Christian, and I told him like, hey, you know what, like I want to write themes for the Schmoedown. Like I want to be the guy. I want to be your Jim Johnson. I'm pretty sure I told him. For any WWE fans out there, Jim Johnson was the guy who wrote like all the themes back in the day. And he was like, all right, let's give you a shot. And like he gave me his email. I emailed him. He was like, and the first thing he told me, like, I would like to see what you think corruption sounds like. And like to this day, like, I mean, I listen to it now and I cringe a little bit because it's like I've gotten better in terms of producing. But to this day, like when I talk to a lot of the fans, that tends to be their favorite theme. Like I love corruption. That's like the best one. I'm like, it's not my personal favorite just because of like what I hear. But I mean, we're always our own harshest critic, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
honestly, that's anytime you create something, I feel like you're the person who interprets it the harshest, and
Yeah.
it's almost like you're looking for the criticisms to find your growth in it. As like for as a musician for yourself, I imagine you look at your oldest stuff and your latest stuff, and you can't help but compare it to try and find the growth.
Yeah, and it's like fighting the urge, like don't go back and fix it. Just kind of leave it as like a time capsule of where you were to where you are now. But I mean,
Yeah.
if I ever have the opportunity and like and I'm not gonna lie, if they tell me like, hey, we'll pay you X, Y, and Z to like kind of remaster these, like, oh, in a heartbeat, because I could do way better. But I mean, they're it's kind of cool though for me personally, like because when I was first starting off, I didn't know that much. I knew a little bit about production. Like obviously, I could play. Like I got music degrees. I got a bachelor's in music and a master's in jazz, so I can play. But it
Oh,
was
okay,
like,
jazz.
but it was production. I was like a little iffy. But I have a couple of production friends who like helped me out a little bit too, gave me some pointers, and like, I mean, you listen to like what I wrote for Attic Columns now, and like you listen to Corruption. Like of course, like I'm not saying Corruption's not a great theme. I love that riff, but like to me, the sound quality is like night and day. I'm sure for most people, it's like who cares? They both kick ass. But to me, it's like
Yeah.
that I like the way that sounds more.
And I feel like that is and I by no means would ever call myself a musician, but you have music degrees. I took high school classes, but it to an extent I can understand it because I don't think I've ever said this on camera, but when I was in high school, I took piano for 4 years, and I also took AP Music Theory and passed that exam.
Oh,
So
nice.
to an exam, it was difficult, man. The hardest part for me was the note pitches. I don't know what it was, but I've always struggled with trying to hear notes like just out of
Oh,
playing it.
yeah. My ear training is. Can we curse on this?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't fucking
Yeah,
care.
my ear training is dog shit, dude. Like that was probably like ear training and history when I was doing my undergrad specifically was probably like the heaviest subject because I just like I could tell you it was wrong, like I could hear it, but I couldn't
Right.
tell you why. And that was
Yeah.
music. That was ear training. Like, what's wrong with this major chord? What note did I change? I don't know, but there's a wrong note in there. So,
Yeah. I remember I got so the class technically was a regular class because it was one of those things where they had the option to do AP, but they almost never enrolled kids in it because most of the kids who took it didn't even know what they were signing up for.
yeah.
And when I signed up for the class, my piano teacher, who had already I took it my sophomore year, so my piano teacher knew me already, and he was like, "Hey, like he should be good for this because he knows all the piano stuff, like the basics at least." And I remember after like a month in the class, he pulled me to the side and he goes, "Hey," he's like, "So would you want to enroll in the AP version? He's like, you'd have to do a little extra studying, and obviously you take the test. But he's like, do you want to enroll for the AP credit? And I said, sure. And I remember asking him, I said, why? And he said, because the only people in the class who are passing are the people who sit around you, and it's only because you're helping them. That tells me you got a shot.
Dude, that's legit. Like, music theory is no joke.
Yeah.
Like I remember, cause like when I was in high school, I was in marching band. I was playing trumpet, so I could like kind of sort of read treble clef. I could barely
Okay.
read bass clef, but other than that, I never really had to like study intervals and what makes a chord, what's a triad,
Oh
and all
yeah.
that stuff. What's a major chord, what's a minor chord. It wasn't until like literally college where it was like, funny enough, my first ever private lesson was a piano private lesson in college,
Okay.
and she had to like, God bless her, she had to teach me a lot about like the basics of music theory, like major scales and what constitutes that. But if it wasn't for her and like her passion for it, I don't know if I would have become a music major and try to really pursue it as a career. Up until that point, I was thinking about maybe computer science or computer engineer of all things. But I had a physics teacher who I could not understand, like literally could not understand. He was from another country, and
Oh.
it was difficult. And I was like, I was pretty much gonna fail that class. I had to withdraw. I was like, there's no way I can't do this. Um, and yeah, and like the first ever like guitar private lesson I ever had was when I decided, yeah, I'll be a music major. And, and when I told him to, like, you're the first time I've ever had like an actual lesson in guitar, he was like, how did they allow you in this program? Like, that was the first thing he told me, and I was like, oh boy. But I don't know,
That's what
like,
you want to hear.
yeah, I was like, oh great, that's encouraging, dude. Thanks. I made it, and I was like, hey, if I could do this bachelor's, I could do a master's degree, right? And the
Masters. Yeah.
master's degree was a whole different story. I was on my own for that one. I actually had
Right.
my jazz instructor, God bless him too, but he was kind of a dick. He literally told me first semester, is like, hey man, maybe you shouldn't come back next semester. Like he straight up told me that. I remember that too, and instead of being like, oh man, I was like, I'll show you, and I did, and I got a master's degree now. So
It's like, sit down and shut up. Let
yeah,
watch this.
I was like, okay, all right, challenge accepted. So I don't know, man. Like with music, it's kind of weird how it all kind of worked out for me, considering how many people were like, yeah, don't do this. Like
Yeah.
professionals too, like, you know. So
But I think that's what it's all about, right? Because I've one of the things that I learned when I was learning piano is a lot of music is passion, right? It's how passionate you are for it. The pieces,
oh
like
yeah.
I especially with like not having one, the few times I've been around a piano, the stuff that I can remember and play is the stuff I'm passionate about. So like when I took the class, so my last year of it, because I left regular high school for a year to do virtual school. So when I went back, they put me back in the class. But I'd missed all the training for all the competitions that a fourth year piano student is supposed to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So the teacher just kind of told me, because he liked me, he's like, I'm not going to kick you out, but he's like, I can't really have you do anything that all the others are doing. So he just has told me, as long as you're being productive, you're good. And so I started picking out like film scores online and practicing and learning different film scores that I loved. I can still remember the riffs that I enjoy playing, and it ranges from everything to like the big stuff like Jaws and Jurassic Park and all that, down to like I love the Ant-Man score. Like that theme for Ant-Man, I love this. I love that. So I learned how to play it. I can remember that, but if you ask me to play like when the Saints go marching in, I'll sit there and struggle because I remember what I was passionate about learning, not the stuff the book told me to learn. So I get the basics down. So I feel like a lot of that is your passion for it. And I'm sure the more you learn and the more you find that you enjoy it, the more passionate you are. And that makes you want to push harder and get this thing, even though everyone's telling you, maybe don't go for it.
It's also too, like, if I'm being real honest, like I've always kind of struggled with like anxiety and self-esteem issues growing up. Like I was heavily bullied. I mean, I was heavily bullied as a kid because I was always kind of like a chunky dude. And
Okay.
and I don't know, man, just something about being in college and like your own professor telling you like, hey man, maybe you're not cut out for this. For some reason, at that point, I was like pissed off. I was tired, and I was like, man, fuck you. I'm gonna do this whether you want me to or not. And which
Yeah.
surprisingly, like number one, like I got a lot of respect because of that, because people saw me struggling but like making it, you know what I mean? And like, and
Yeah.
I was struggling. Like there was a couple of days where I was like fuck, the music was hard, like I wasn't playing like no offense, we weren't playing pop. Like we were saying, we're not playing radio hits. This is like fucking jazz, like really
Right.
intricate fucking stuff. And like and my instructor was legit. Like I thought Whiplash was a fiction. And I was like, fuck, I'm living it, because this motherfucker would yell at us, cuss us out. He would throw papers at us. He wouldn't throw chairs or cymbals because that's a lawsuit. But like stuff he could throw at us without hurting us, he would,
Right.
like words and scores. So it was kind of, I hesitate to say hostile, because it wasn't always hostile. Like it was it was fun at times too, but it was also challenging. And it was also too like, I know in the back of his head he knew he was pushing us to all be better musicians in that room,
Right.
all the orchestra and all the players. But there was just some days, man, where just like I did think like, fuck, maybe I am not cut out for this. Maybe I should quit. But I was like, man, no, I've made it this far. I'm gonna keep pushing. So, and it was also like, I mean, it's kind of nice to shut people up. I'm not gonna lie. Just
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, like look at this, I did it. You thought I couldn't do it, boom. And then walking up to him with like confidence too, like, hey, that solo, I want it. Give me that fucking solo. It's like, you sure? And I was like, yeah, I want it. He's like, all right, I'm gonna put you against. There's like other guitarists there too. I was like, that's fine. I'll blow them out of the water. I want this fucking solo. And most times I would get the solos I wanted. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's a couple of times the other guys wanted the solo too. I'm like, motherfuckers, it's mine. And they'd be like, all right, or we'll audition for it. I was like, all right, you guys are gonna fucking lose because I've been working on this shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird,
Yeah.
man. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because it is kind of hostile and it does kind of make you anxious, but at the same time, like there's something to be said about that kind of environment that legitimately kind of pushed me to be a better musician, but also kind of pushed me to have that confidence that I felt I had in my undergrad, if that makes sense. Which
Yeah.
I honestly think kind of led me to have that confidence to be like, Christian, I want to do this. Like, let me write a
Right.
song for you. You know what I mean? I don't know if that would have happened if I didn't get my master's. I'm being quite honest.
Well, because that's the ultimate, like, putting yourself out there. Like, it's one
Yeah,
thing for them to be like, "Hey, send us a song," and you throw something together. It's a completely different beast to go up to them and be like, "Listen, I'm your guy. Give me the
yeah,
shot. Let me do this."
yeah. I want
And
this.
here you are today, as you said, 20 plus tracks later. Almost every time someone walks into the Schmoedown, you're there hearing your music.
Yeah,
You're the accredited person. You know,
yeah.
and it's like that does take guts to make that initial step, right? Because it's, once you're in the door, you're in the door, but it's hard to get that foot in sometimes. And
Not only that too, man. Like, you gotta have the skills to back it up. Like there's a lot of people
oh,
who talk a mean game, but
they
like
can't.
eight times out of 10, they don't got the skills to kind of back it up. They're just really good talkers. Like I've always kind of known, even though I've struggled with it, to be like, I have the skills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've always kind of struggled with like the confidence of knowing that, if that makes sense. Like, because I would have people all the time like tell me like, man, you're really good. Like, and I'm just, but I was always comparing myself to like people I thought were fucking brilliant. And I'm like, I ain't that great.
Yeah.
And eventually it's like you kind of have to let a little bit of that seep in. Obviously, not too much to the point where you get pig-headed. You know what I mean? It's like, I am fucking the greatest gift on God's green earth. Like, but
Right.
you do have to have a little bit of a confidence. Like, you know what? There's a reason why I got this far. Yeah, it's my tenacity, it's my passion. Also, maybe I am pretty fucking good and I could do this. So, and
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, man. That master's degree is what kind of gave me that. So, despite
But
the fact that it was whiplash.
I was gonna say it's kind of funny because, like, I've never actually spoken to someone who learned jazz music, but it is kind of funny, right? And it's that I feel like obviously Whiplash is very much an extreme. Like, you will never walk into any music class. Well, I shouldn't say any, but you will most likely not walk into a music class and get a teacher chucking a chair at your head. But it's the concept of this intense, constant push to a point where it may make you even feel miserable at times.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the movie, is Miles Teller the better drummer for it? Absolutely. And it's the question of, was it all worth it? Maybe, maybe not.
That's the
The only
thing.
thing I think we can agree on is that it's definitely intense, and JK deserved the Oscar. But
That's why I say it's a double-edged sword, because like it depends on the person, I think, right? I think
mhm,
in my case, my instructor, and I'm just not I mean, if you know where I'm from, you could easily look him up. I'm just not gonna say his name just in case. I don't want to get him in trouble. But
Right.
like my instructor, for the most part, there were certain dudes he would like do that to. He wouldn't do it to everybody. There were certain cats he would be that kind of mean to, if that makes sense. And like it kind of took me like a minute. It was specifically this one guy, his assistant. He talked to me. He's like, "Hey man," it was like, "No, he wouldn't. No one would do that if they didn't think you were worth pushing." You know what I mean? And it's
Right.
like, and it kind of clicked for me. I was like, "Oh shit!" Like this guy believes I have something. I'm not there
Mhm.
yet. I had to tell myself I'm not there yet, but he believes I have something. So I mean,
Well, it's a very similar approach, and again, obviously, totally different like playing fields. But when I was in high school, and my music theory teacher was a different teacher from my piano teacher, but I'd heard stories from both of them where, my music theory teacher taught guitar at the school, and he also taught chorus, and people would talk about, oh, let's pick up these music classes because they're so easy, they never really push, they never get on you about anything. And I remember asking them one day, I was like, why do you with like first years, like why do you never really get on them, but some you seem really into? And they were like, well, it's like, you can observe if you have a student who doesn't really know how to play gravitating towards a piano naturally, it's because they want to learn. Whereas if you have someone who may be talented, but their instinct is to whip out their phone and lean back in their chair, they're never going to learn anything because they don't have the passion and the want. So they're like,
yeah,
look, if they want to fail, they can get their F and leave my class at the end of the year, but I'm not going to fight them or push them because it's on them. They're old enough to know. And I thought that
yeah,
was a really great way to look at it, because especially as someone now who works in the school system, all I see half the time are teachers just yelling at kids to get them to do something. And it's like, well, maybe sometimes you have to take a different approach to it. And sometimes, like, I would see kids, when I was in, especially my first year, kids at the start of the year who didn't care, eventually they kind of picked up and started learning something, and then they were getting the help and the aid that they needed to push that. And it's like, you, to an extent, especially with something like music or any kind of art, you have to show the care first before anyone's going to care about you.
yeah. No, and like in that room, specifically that orchestra that I was in,
Hmm.
like you didn't get in there if you didn't have talent. You know what I
Right.
mean? But you didn't stay in there if you didn't have the passion to keep driving that talent forward. And like, and the way he ran that room, like if you did not have the passion for it, you did not last long in that room because it was hostile. Like it was. I
Right.
don't want to say it, but it kind of was. And like,
It
and if you
hostile, like it sounds hostile to a point where, like, if this isn't really what you
you
want,
what you
then you're
want,
like,
you
that guy's a
quit.
dick, I'm
Yeah,
done. Like,
yeah. And it would happen a lot. It would happen with a lot of kids that would come through, but the ones who were like I'm doing this in
right.
a weird way, it was also like he was also kind of preparing us for like the real world and like the actual like
Oh yeah.
music industry where it's like now, dude, like like when I deal with certain musicians, it's just like the greediness and like the not the inability, but the not wanting to like share opportunity. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially like here where I'm at, it's like the music scene's dead because like the few old cats that like created opportunity just kept it to themselves, and now it's like it it just kind of fizzled out because they did nothing to grow it. It was just like, this is mine. It's staying like this forever. And now
Right.
it's like we've had so many venues, and yeah, you could say COVID or whatever, but even before COVID, so many venues were closing down. Like so many like certain like nights, like there would be like emo nights, and, like rock nights and pop nights and all that stuff. All that shit just kind of, and obviously COVID just kind of exasperated that to like really start shutting stuff down. But
Right.
I mean, it is what it is, you know. But yeah, man. Like you're a teacher, like, or do you? What do you teach?
Well, I'm right now, I'm a substitute. I'm studying education.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I've been in all, like, I've been in music classes, but I've been in all sorts of types of classrooms. But like, yeah, it's so weird, man. Like, interacting with the, like, younger people and kind of seeing how teachers interact with them now. And like, I'm only 21, so I didn't graduate high school all that long ago. But even in those couple of years, it seems like it's changed so much. It's so weird, like, with the way things are going. Um, yeah, that's a whole nother discussion. It's
Dude, like, cause I mean, I'm not a certified teacher, but like, I would teach like music classes in like private institutions and stuff.
yeah,
And like the worst classes always was like a group of teens. because it
Oh
was
yeah.
just like getting them to just like pay attention, just getting them to be like, guys, you guys wanted to be here, like
Hmm.
what are you doing? It would have to be to the point where I would have to be like Mr. No Fun in that class, you know what I mean? Where I would be like, and I would get in trouble for this sometimes too. This is probably why ultimately I don't work there anymore. But I told like my bosses like you know what, I gotta do something with these kids, man. It's like, well, you know, I'm like, no, like, you know what, I'm gonna like. I told them too. I didn't tell my bosses this when they found out. They were a little pissed off, but whatever. I told the kids like, you're 10 minutes late. I'm locking that door. I don't care. I'm tired of I told them one day, I'm tired of this disrespect. You guys wanted to be here. All
Yeah.
right. You guys chose to be here. You guys asked your mom and dad to be here. Like, I'm not going to put up with it. I'm not your mom. I'm not your dad. You guys are 10 minutes late. You're disrespecting me, disrespecting this class. I'm locking you out. Go complain about me. I don't care.
Absolutely.
And and
Yeah.
I even told them too, like, because it was a music theory class. I even told them too, like, you guys aren't studying the material. Guess what? I'm not going to baby you. I'm going to give you all the tools and the information, but if you guys don't study, I'll fail you. I really don't care. I told them straight up. They all looked at
Yeah.
me like that, like, okay, mister. I'm sorry, mister. There's another thing
I've
too. What's so hard about calling me Mister B? Like, just say Mister B. They can't even put the B at the end of it. Oh, okay, Mister. Mister what? Yeah, Mister. Oh my god,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so weird.
it's I don't know what happened. It's a whole thing. There's some 12-year-old watching right now who's fuming, but I actually I don't care. I'm not responsible for you hearing cursing, but yeah, it's rather weird, man. Like the direction that that's going. Like the biggest thing that I've noticed with like younger kids is just the lack of wanting to accept responsibility is a lot of what stems it all. Like I have at one particular school, I have a group of kids who have spent the entire year hating me because in October, which if for some reason there's a teacher watching this, one of the worst things you can ever do for a substitute is leave a test for them to administer because the kids already respect us less. So they're not going to respect the rules of a test with a substitute in the room. And so I covered a teacher for 2 days and had to give a test over the course of 2 days. And after the first day, when I emailed the teacher, I said, listen, this is everything they were doing. I mean, kids talking, literally sharing answers right in front of me, eating, yada, yada, just everything that you could be doing. And the teacher said, all right, tell them from me, if they do it tomorrow, you take their paper, write an F on it. I failed a bunch of kids the next day, not caring one bit, and they've spent the rest of the year attempting to make my life hell. Not that I take any of it personally, but it's like, just accept the responsibility that you're the one who didn't listen. Stop saying, well, you're not a teacher, you're just a sub. Instead, maybe just listen to the person in charge and you wouldn't get in trouble.
Yeah, dude, it's weird. But it's also like the thing. Like when I look back and I look at like some of the classes I was in high school, and I went to a bad high school. Like we had a bad rep, just straight
Yeah,
up.
so did mine.
Like
It
like
was
the like this was my high school. This is real. The
all
year
right.
before my freshman year, like literally like the summer of me going into my freshman year, someone put a pipe bomb in one of the boys' locker room, and
Oh
one of the
my
guys
god.
and one of the kids opened it, and nothing happened, but he was seriously injured. That was the fucking school I went to. Uh,
Okay, no one ever almost died at my school, but
so so and we always, this is real talk. My school was fucking. I'm surprised I'm alive now that I'm thinking about it. But we would always have lockdowns because there'd be shootings at our school. Like at least every other week, we'd be like, "All right,
wow,
everyone, please stay in your classroom. There's been a shooting outside the campus or on campus or some bullshit like that."
that
So
is
that was a school.
insane.
That was the school I went to. Real talk. And
I thought mine was bad.
I remember one day, like sitting in my sophomore English class. I remember this. It was always after lunch. And this particular day, the kids were just rowdy. They did not care. Like my English teacher, God bless him, like he was trying for like the first 15 minutes, and these kids in the back just didn't care. They were talking, they were loud, they were yelling, they were laughing. And I saw him just kind of like this kind of broke me. He just kind of sat down at his desk. He's just like threw his arms up like he just, and I loved that class cuz I was like reading books, and he was like really opening my mind about like critical thinking and themes and books and stuff like that.
Right.
So where it's like I never thought about that. So like there was like, I mean, where there's like a bunch of us in the front row who were like, we like this class, and he just kind of looked at us and he just went, "I'm sorry, guys," and it was literally we just sat there for 45 minutes, and I
Like
remember
just
just look.
gave up.
Yeah, and I remember just looking back at these kids. I'm like, you guys are fuck ups. Like, not only are you making yourself stupid, now you're making me stupid because I can't fucking learn because you won't shut the fuck up. I was so mad that day, and I remember that day I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of this environment. Like, that's not gonna be me. And I
Yeah.
remember uh I don't even think I waited. Usually you had to wait like semester or like the next year. And I was like, I went to him. I was like, hey man, like I like this class. I like you. I can't stand my peers. I was like, can you please sign this paper to let me go into AP English? And he signed it and said, yeah, get the hell out of here. Like he straight up told me, get the hell out of this class. And I was just like, cool, man. And I went into AP. I went into AP like my like mid year my sophomore year because I was like, yeah, I'm not hanging
Wow.
out with these kids. They're literally making me dumb. And like literally, dude, all those cats, like some of them are dead because again, bad school.
Yeah.
So they kind of made terrible choices growing up. Some of them barely making ends meet, and then some of them just kind of disappeared. Like no one knows what happened to some of those kids. So it was like,
Yeah.
I think I made the right call. That was my school growing up. So, and I don't know, man. Like it's weird because it's I'm first gen. Like my parents are immigrants, so I'm first generation technically here, right?
Yeah.
And they came here to kind of like they always let us know like we're trying to give you guys a better life, better opportunities. And like I just had their it's probably cheesy, but I had their words echoing in my head that day. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm not gonna waste this. And
Yeah.
so I got the hell out of there. And to see like kids again, like right now too, like same situation, but they're like, I don't care. Just give me my cell phone, my friends. I don't care. And it's like it's gonna bite you in the ass. But maybe that's what you need. Maybe you need like
Yeah. Sometimes it's you got to wake up on your own personal. I
yeah.
remember, and this was as far back as middle school, and it's one of those things where it's so insane. I kind of have to laugh at it, but it sucks that it happened. There was a history teacher when I was in 8th grade, and everybody hated her because she was one who constantly tried to fight back against the kids who were causing problems. So of course all these kids hated her. And I remember being in a class one day, and these kids were in the back, like talking, making noises, doing all sorts of crazy things. Um, and I forget what she said exactly, but she like screamed at them, and she went off at them, and she ended it with, "I better not hear one more." They were rapping. That's what they were doing. They were rapping in the back of the class. She goes, "I better not hear one more rap lyric out of you." And I kid you not, one of the kids in like the corner goes, "Oh, oh," and a class full of kids proceeds to fuck with this teacher by singing the lyrics to Justin Bieber's Baby. Now, what's sad is they all knew the lyrics, like 100%. Those kids knew that song. So it's one of those experiences where I'm like, hold up, you guys are supposed to be the cool kids of this school, but you all know the lyrics to Baby. But also, that is incredible. Like that teacher quit before the end of the year. And that's incredibly sad that you kids are so determined to hate this person that you push them into that. Like
Yeah.
it's insanity.
It is insanity, dude. And it's because I had stuff like that happen. I mean, obviously, I just told a story about sophomore English where it's like these kids are just
Right.
that mob mentality. But I'm just like,
Now I feel good. I thought my high school had a bunch of fuck arounds, but like the worst I can ever think of violence wise outside of fights was some kid thought it would be a good idea to light a firework off the one of the building's balconies, and he lit it into a courtyard. But that's the worst that ever got there. No
I
one literally
mean,
ever got.
that was like the tamest thing that happened to us. Someone lighting fireworks in the middle of
There you
lunch
go.
hour. But that was like
That was
the
tame.
tamest. That was tame where I came from, man.
Yeah,
No,
man.
but I never even growing up in like elementary school and like middle school through high school, I never understood that mob mentality of just being vicious and mean to other human beings. I just maybe it's just the way I was raised and like I always like thank God if that's the case, but like I just
Yeah,
never understood like how can you waste your time and waste other people's time just to be a little shit. Like I legit never understood that, man. And like I don't know when I teach teens now, especially boys, because let's be real, it's always boy teens who are like the
yeah,
worst of the bunch. Like I remember when I was in that theory class, I would just look at them and I remember there was like this one day where they're just like not getting it, and I was like, look, dude, I'll fail you. I just looked at this one kid in particular. I was like, I'll fail you. Like your other teacher and stuff, I'm not him. And guess what? He's not working here. I am. So you gonna keep acting up? Guess what? I'll see you here again next year. He just looked at me like, Because like up to that point, it was like I'm paying for the class, you let me do what I want, and I just move forward. Because that's what it was. It was a private music studio,
Yeah,
right? It wasn't a elementary or high school or whatever. But
it
at
was
that
it
point,
was a
I was
private.
yeah. At that point, also too, like I was like, I'm not gonna let you run me over. I'll fail you. I'll get
Yeah,
fired before I lose my integrity to you. Like straight up, like I don't care. And for the most part, like once my bosses found out, they were like, all right, it kind of worked because all of a sudden, all of them started studying because I legit started getting them F's on their music theory classes. And I was
yeah,
like, I'll fail you. And they were like, why did we fail though? And it's like, I'm not your previous teacher. Like, you guys
yep,
got away with murder so far. You're not going to get away with it with me. I like, and it was for real. Like, I would rather get fired than like lose my integrity. Like, I don't care. Like, legit, I don't
absolutely.
care. Can I use the money? Of course. Like, times are tough, especially for musicians. I'm not gonna let some little shits run me over and like try to bully me into like giving them what they want. Like fuck you. I'm a grown ass man. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think no matter what you're doing, you should always hold integrity. Don't ever, if you're in charge, don't ever let anybody run you over, man.
which,
That's not worth it.
which was honestly, bro, because like a lot of my music friends like they teach public schools, and that's like one of my biggest fears because you kind of have to like, especially like because I have a sister who works at a private school, like a private high school, and even then there's like a couple moments where she has to be like, I have to pass them. The higher ups told me I had to pass, and I'm like, man, fuck that kid. Like
Yeah,
he doesn't deserve it. Like, and then you kind of
but
realize like that's the whole system. It's like that's why these little kids are shits. Like,
yeah, it's a mix of in the public schools that they have, it's almost like they have nobody in their life that pushes them or cares about them, so they don't bring that with them to school. And in the private institutions, it's, well, I don't care that they're messing around. Mommy and daddy contribute to our school, so pass them and keep them here. Let's not fail them and
yeah,
have them go somewhere else.
it's just, and I don't get it. Like, and that's the reason where I'm like, I know eventually I'll have to go down that road because I won't be like, I won't have the vigor to keep playing live shows and living the to producer life. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, eventually I'll want to settle down, but I'm just like, man, fuck, like, but fuck that, dude. Like, I don't. That's why, like hopefully by then I could. Even though college is like slightly better, there's still that little bit of like you gotta have your quota or whatever bullshit. But
right.
at least you can get to a point where it's like, well, it depends on what school you work at too, where you can be like, nah, you fail, you fail. Like that's it.
Yep.
You lost your chance. You know what I mean? Depending on the school you're in. Man, that but like working public schools, man. I don't know how you do it, man. God bless you, because that's like you gotta have patience and mercy and compassion. And like sometimes these kids, I'm just like, I don't care about you. I'll I'll beat you up, like legit. Keep talking smack, dude. Like I do not care. I'll go to jail before I let you fuck around with me like that. Like straight real talk, dude.
Yeah.
And I
My
can't do that in public schools.
my way of coping with it is, first off, like, especially as a sub, I'm odds are I'm very rarely in the same classroom twice in a row. So odds that I'm gonna see these, like the schools I go to the most, I'll probably end up seeing those kids maybe 10 times all year. So the fact is, they're 14-year-olds with an attitude. I'm not gonna take that seriously. Like if I took everything that happened with home with me, I'd be a wreck. Like that's the truth. The
Yeah.
other thing is, I've learned that most teachers are cool with you, like, messing with the kids sounds bad, but I will mess with them. Like, if I'm with a group of kids and they're working on an assignment, and it could be the most basic, like, thing, like the teacher wrote 10 vocab words on the board and it's defined them. If I'm 10 minutes into class and I see these kids messing around, I'll just throw out there, hey, this is getting collected for a grade. Boom. And most of the time, the teachers will email me back and be like, cool, I'll put a grade in for those who turned it in, zeros for the rest. And it's like you learn these little tricks, and it's like hopefully the kids catch on. Like at certain schools I've been to multiple times, the kids who recognize me catch on to the fact that, like, and this is who I am. Like I understand, especially with someone with younger siblings that are in that age range. These kids are attached to their technology, man. Like, which is ironic because I'm staring into a camera on a computer. But these kids are attached to their cell phones. You're never going to break them. So my motto is, as long as they're working and they're not abusing it in any way, I'm not going to waste my time screaming. So if a kid is sitting there working and they're getting distracted by the kids who are talking next to them, and they come up and ask me, hey, can I put my headphones in and listen to music? As long as you're working, yeah, go ahead. Because if that's what helps you get it done, I don't give a fuck if your phone's out and your headphones are in. Do it. Like I think schools need to adapt to some extent while still establishing that they're in charge. And I think if certain, like, I go to schools that will yell at kids because they have hoodies on, like hoodies, not zipped up jackets. And I guess that's a thing. And it's like, why? If they want to have the hoodies on, just let them wear the hoodies, man. At least they're here. What's up with the 4 kids that aren't? Like, come on.
Yeah.
That's really what we're going to worry about? I think there's issues on both sides. Like, a lot of the issue lies with the kids, and there needs to be something instilled in them that accepts responsibility. But on the other hand, I think people have to start accepting, like, cell phones are affecting younger and younger generations in ways that even myself at 21, I didn't get a cell phone until I was in high school. So I could never even comprehend the idea of having a cell phone all the time and like an iPhone. I mean, I have kids who have better phones than me. I have an iPhone X. I got kids with iPhone 12s for like 12, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, I could not imagine that.
That's, dude, like, I mean, I'm 33 years old, so like I didn't grow up with technology. Oh. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think like the first computer we ever had, I was like a freshman in high school when we finally got our first computer. You know what I mean?
And that's one of the like dial-ups with Rotom and
yeah, dude. Yeah. Like your mom would be like, "Can you get off the internet? I'm trying to make a call." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And those are things I know in theory. Like dial-up, I don't think I ever had to use dial-up, but I do know what it is in theory. Like, I know how it works, and that's insane to me. That like, yeah, at one point it was a choice of the internet or your phone.
Dude, hard phone lines don't exist anymore. Like, they don't. Like. And like I grew up with hard phone lines, like that's kind of nuts to think about, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, it's wild. Like I'll be like, there was this one day I was like out on grocery shopping, getting food for myself. I just saw this one kid, and I just remember I don't know why, it was probably creepy if you would have looked at me, but I was just staring at this kid, and they were in their car the whole time they were in their car. They did not notice me staring at them like at all
because
they were legit like this the whole time, and I kind of wanted to scare him, be like, hey, dude, like I'm not gonna like do something to the kid, but it's like, dude, like,
look up, pay attention,
you know your environment. This kid the whole time, and then their mom came back to get them out, and literally I was blown away by this. Literally, they're like never looked away from their phone. They like took their seatbelt off, opened the car door, came out, and started following their mom. Not once looking up from the phone. And I was like, fuck, that's an addiction, bro. That's on crack.
That scares me that they'll be driving in a few years, because
my God.
I'm one of the few people out of like my group of friends who anytime somebody shoots me a text, I wait till I pull up to a light and I call them, because I'm like, is it urgent enough that you need to speak to me? Because I'm not texting you back.
Yeah, dude. Oh man. Like, no, I'm that guy. And this is where technology is kind of cool. If I get a text, I'll let my car read it to me.
Okay.
You know, I'll be like, Siri, read my text. Siri, reply back to blah blah blah. Tell him blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I said Siri, and she woke up right now. Sorry, Siri. But you know what I mean? Like technology is so advanced to a point where you don't need to be looking at your phone. But like, I don't know, man. I guess there's something about that blue light that these kids just can't detach themselves from, which is kind of, it's scary to think about, but it's also really sad. You know?
Yeah.
I'm just like,
and the problem is the more and more that gets invented for it. Like I've read stories of like, also I fucking hate TikTok. I fucking hate it. I can't stand it. And so, like I've read stories, because like I hear these names of people who are famous TikTokers, and to me they're just a bunch of airheads living in LA. But like I'll read stories about them, and I read one about I can't remember her name, but it was a girl, and they were like, "Oh, what were you doing before you were a TikToker?" And it's like, I was in college studying criminology. What the fuck did you drop out to become a TikToker for? That's never gonna last. You should know that this isn't like all the Vine died eventually. Like, these things will not last forever, and people my age and especially younger are so obsessed with this like viral internet fame, which again, the irony of it is that I'm talking about this on a podcast that will go on the internet. But the point in being is like I do this and I have these discussions with people because I enjoy doing it. Like I have a whole format that I follow, and I completely threw it out the window because this is one of the most interesting discussions that I've had in a long time. Like, I love this.
When are we getting to music? And the next hour we'll do music.
I'll wrap back. But like, I love that. Like, seriously, I want to have you back on just to talk. This is one of the most interesting discussions I've ever had, and I love that it's just natural and it's free flowing, and this is what it is. But like, so many people are stuck chasing this fame dream, and they
Yeah.
don't want to put the work in for it. And I hate that platforms like TikTok exist because they give you that thing even further. And it's like we have people that are famous now for looking at the camera funny and being kind of hot, and that's just scary. Like, that is just scary on so many levels, that there are people making like there are, in a culture where, especially like in the years past since the Me Too movement, right? We live in a culture where we're consistently fighting to not have instances happen where, especially girls, because it happens to everyone, but more so girls are put in this position where they could be viewed in a way that could lead to bad situations. And yet at the same time, we have people who are famous for looking into a camera, smiling, and throwing their hair back, and they're making God knows how much because a bunch of sad dudes are sitting there liking their shit constantly and commenting. And like, I fucking hate TikTok. That's the point of this, is I hate TikTok. God damn it.
Oh man, that just kind of triggered something in me where I was like thinking about, oh, I remember. For some reason today, maybe it's serendipitous. I was thinking about the movie The Cable Guy. You know that movie with Jim Carrey
Yeah,
and Matthew
yeah.
Broderick,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know why it just popped in my head today. I was like, and I remember I remember people hating that movie, and I was like, why did people hate that movie? And I was just like, randomly went on YouTube, The Cable Guy review, and Nostalgia Critic came up,
Okay,
and
yeah.
he was saying like, you know what? He was like making an argument like this movie's actually really good. It just probably came out during
Ahead of
a
its
weird
time.
time. But then he made an interesting point where he said, but if you think about it instead of like the cable guy, but and replace it with like the guy in the YouTube comments, or the guy who stalks Instagram, or the guy who's on
Mm-hmm.
any social media platform instead, suddenly the movie is very satirical of that, and it's kind of funny, while albeit also being kind of scary. And when he
Right.
said that, I was like, "Holy shit! That's literally who Jim Carrey's playing. He's
Yeah.
playing those dudes on like, man, you see it all the time, especially on Twitter. Like these guys are like, not my Star Wars. The MCU's getting so woke and blah 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 and all this bullshit. And it's like, that's them. Like Jim Carrey's literally playing a hyper version of them, and it's like, holy shit! Like the movie was kind of like, it came out in the wrong time, but it was like it knew where we were heading. It was just kind
Yeah.
of weird. I don't know, but what you were saying right just kind of reminded me of that. So weird.
Like, Jim Carrey is like a living representation of every hypermasculine douche that shat on Captain Marvel before it came out. Like, that is essentially what the world. It is
But
kind of
it's
funny because
also,
it came out so long ago, because it
it
really
came
is
out
a
in
predictor of
'96.
culture.
Yeah, it's this thing too of how like, you're mentioning like TikTok fame and like these like Instagram models and stuff like that, where it's like,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the
for
dumbest
me,
thing ever. Instagram model, really? I thought
I
the
mean,
Kardashians were dumb, but like, this is worse.
like for me personally, like, I mean, like, however you can get your money, fine. Like, I wouldn't do that, and maybe I don't agree with it, but everyone's entitled to live their life their own way. That being
Yeah,
said, I don't support it. I get what you're saying. I personally don't support it, but like the few times it pops up on my feed, because for whatever reason Instagram knows I'm a red-blooded male, and I'll just like I'll see like, or even if it's not that, even if it's like a creative I personally think is like brilliant creative that just happened to be a female who had like a good shot one day, you know
right,
what I mean? You just go on those fucking comments and you're like, bro, like, just like it and move on. Like,
right, right.
but it's literally like a bunch of, notice me, notice me, notice me, you're mine, I love you. It's like, you don't
Dude,
know this person. Like everything about our social media, man, is it's really us projecting what we think is our best version. It's not the real version, it's what we think our best version of ourselves is, if that makes sense.
yeah,
And like we're
it
all
does.
guilty of it. I'm guilty of it too. Like you go on my Instagram or Twitter, like it's just like me posting shit I like. If something cool happened, like I got a gig or whatever, I'll post about that. Or even even if it's like music, like I've been recently doing what I've been calling like late night acoustic sessions on my Instagram, where it's just I
Okay.
play little acoustic ditties and I'll post them like at 2, 3 a.m. some ridiculous hour. But even then, like no one sees like the 10, 20 takes I did prior to that were completely shitty, me fucking
Mhm.
up. They saw like the like out of 100 takes, they saw literally the 99th take that I was like, that one's pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always
Yeah.
our best foot forward, but it's not real. And that's the thing
Yeah.
I think
Well,
a lot of these kids don't realize, like, dude, it's not real. Like, it's cool. Like, yeah, okay, you can admire it, sure, but it's not realistic. Like, it's just
yeah.
no one can genuinely live their life like this. Like,
And it's like, and I will, because I wish we didn't have a time crunch, but I will wrap it back around to the Schmoedown briefly before we close out. But like, even like for a real world example, like I have a group of friends, they hate me because like whenever we hang out, they like to take pictures, and they're the type of people where it's like if they want to take a group picture and it's not fucking perfect, it's like, oh, we'll take 10 more of these, and I'm like, no, you got like fucking 2, that's good enough, pick the best one. Like, life is not a perfect shot, who cares?
yeah.
Like, why are we trying so hard?
I'm not. That's why. Like, I'll take
you
one or
have
two pictures
100
too.
followers. Why are we trying so hard right now? You're
Yeah,
not. This is just for you. Like, yeah. Maybe I'm just bitter. I don't know. Tell me in the comments. But like, it's insane. So here's what I'll do to kind of wrap the show back around to the Schmoedown a little bit. Dude, I want to have you back on. This has been one of the most fun episodes I've had of anything. Just the conversation's been great. But so we'll wrap it back around. What I usually start the show with is a format called the 5 questions interview, which is I have roughly 5 questions. I might shorten it a little bit. We'll save some for the next time. But I have a couple questions here that are kind of Schmoedown related, basic intro stuff that I'll ask you. And then we'll go ahead and close it out. So the first thing is, I feel like the most basic question you can ask a fan of the Schmoedown, because as you were a fan before you got into it, when did you first discover the Movie Trivia Schmoedown?
Oh, Christian came on a Movie Fights. I was a big Screen Junkies guy.
Okay.
And they invited Christian on one time. And it's the infamous, if you've never seen it, go look at it. It's the infamous one where Christian makes up a movie called Nightfall, starring Robert De Niro and Al Pacino.
It's a great moment.
And the fact that he almost won, he even had me convinced. And then they were like, and then he loses, like, yeah, of course you're not going to find it because I made it up. It's not real. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And it took me to Schmoedown and Collider Live. And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that episode, and I literally remember as he's talking about it, I'm looking up like, how the fuck do I not know this exists? And I'm looking it up, and then he's like, yeah, it's not fucking real. And I'm like, God damn it, he got me.
And it's like, well, it's a good thing I lost because the movie's not real. And it's like, what? Like, you were so convincing. That was so good. It was like the best improv I've ever seen on that show up to that point. So I was like, I gotta, honestly, who's this guy? So, and then also a couple of times they've invited Mark Ellis too, like.
Yeah, so you've seen both of them on Movie Fights.
Yeah, but it's specifically the Nightfalls that really stood out, and I was like, I gotta go check this dude out.
Yeah, that's what's sad is he pitched a better movie than most of their collaborations have been. So that's the real sad part.
Yeah,
like, I mean, it doesn't sound as long as The Irishman, and it's definitely better than Righteous Kill. So
I was about to say Righteous Kill. It's okay. It's not a hunk of crap the way people want it to be. If you compare it to Heat, like, of course you're gonna hate it. Like, nothing's gonna beat Heat, but like, it's not bad. It's not great.
It's like what's it called? That movie Den of Thieves that came out a couple of years ago. I'm the only person I know, like, outside of the YouTube sphere, I'm the only person I know in my personal life that thinks that movie's fine. And they're like, why do you think it's just fine? It's great. And I'm like, have you ever seen Heat? Because it's the same movie.
That movie's good. Yeah. Den of Thieves is good.
It's good.
As like a Heat remake.
Yeah, it's just Heat, except you traded out Pacino and De Niro for Gerard Butler and Pablo Schreiber. Like, okay.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good movie. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's well made, well executed. It's just good. It's okay. Yeah.
Heat's better. Watch Heat. All right. No, go ahead.
Because it's because those movies like aren't in people's, like, unless you're really into movies, like who's really gonna find Heat on their own? Really?
True.
You're gonna watch what's coming out right now. You're not gonna go back and be like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like how many kids have actually watched Casablanca? I've watched it. Or Psycho. How many people actually know now that movie exists?
Film school.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what though? I will say with Psycho, I am so glad that people at least know the original before they know the remake, because I know that's the big thing with remakes nowadays is like, oh, people will remember the remake and not the original. I don't know, one person that knows Vince Vaughn's in a Psycho remake, and that's a blessing.
unless you're kind of like movies are like a passion or a hobby of yours, like, so I mean, like, yeah, like I have a lot of friends who are like that too, and I'm like, you haven't seen this movie, but I gotta remember, like, they're not really in that community the way I am with movies. And even then, like, now with the people I know because of the Schmoedown, like they're watching movies every day, and I'm like, I didn't know this fucking thing existed, so now I get it. So
yeah, to an extent, like I think probably the most visceral experience I've ever had with that is I think The Greatest Showman is fine.
I agree.
Okay.
I think it's fine. It's good,
but it's not.
I
Like,
didn't get the hype. Like, I think maybe like the hype for me kind of made the movie
good
less
soundtrack.
good. It's okay.
It's not better than La La Land if we're comparing their soundtracks. It's not better than La La Land.
No, I would. I mean, obviously, La La Land's not really a musical to me. It has musical bits in it.
No, that's fair.
Greatest Showman is more of a musical. Like, it acts more of a musical. That being said, the orchestration and the arrangements in La La Land I prefer a lot more over Greatest Showman. That also being said too, jazz guy, degree in jazz. Of course, I will like the jazz soundtrack way more. So just saying. But anyways.
All right. So you know what to do. If you'll come back, I would love to have you back and start a show properly. What I'm going to do instead is I have 3 jazz related questions since you're a jazz major. I'll go here. All right. So the first one is, as a jazz major, is, I believe it's called Start a Fire from La La Land, is that a bastardization of jazz like the movie tries to make it? The John Legend song. For those who don't know what the title is.
No.
Okay.
I think personally it happens in anything anybody likes, right? There's always gonna be that gatekeeper of like, it's not really blah blah blah. I mean, like, I mean, to a certain extent, when I was younger too, I kind of did that shit too. Where I was like, it's not real music, because I was really into metal when I was in high school. But
okay, fair enough, yeah.
But every genre evolves and changes, and then you get subgenres from that said genre. So it might not be like the jazz you like. It might not be swing or bebop or what have you. But if it swings a little bit and it's got that instrumentation, bro, it's jazz. But you can call it whatever you want: urban jazz, hip hop jazz, pop jazz, whatever. But it's jazz.
It's jazz.
Like, I'm sorry, you don't have to like it, but it's jazz. Yeah.
I like that, because that was one of the only criticisms I had when I saw the movie. Was I know that they're trying to make a point of like, it's not Ryan Gosling's interpretation of jazz, but why do they have to make it a legitimately good song? It does not help the case the movie's trying to make, that it's well-produced song.
I think that's also the point of the movie, right? Because music is subjective, and like, as human beings, like, and especially like as academics, like, you're always trying to label something to have it make sense. Which is, I think, is another whole discussion too. It's both good and bad sometimes too.
Fair enough.
But again, like, if we break it down to the essence of like what constitutes jazz, well, jazz has swinging eighth notes in it. Okay, what else? Instrumentation. All right, saxophones, trumpets, usually some kind of rhythm section, drums, piano, bass, maybe guitar. Boom, that's it. If we just break it down to those purest essences, if it has a combo of that thing, dude, it's jazz. Like, it may not be jazz you like, but it's jazz. For example, a lot of people hate smooth jazz, right? They all make fun of Kenny G, even though that motherfucker's making millions of dollars.
Right.
They all make fun of him, right? But it's jazz, baby. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you don't have to like it. It's fine. You don't have to like it. Like, there's subgenres of metal I personally fucking can't stand, like grindcore. I think it sounds like literal garbage, like pigs in a trash can, but some people love it, and they call it metal. Okay, it's metal. It's just not my kind of metal. It's jazz. It's just not your kind of jazz, and that's fine. And I think ultimately Ryan Gosling's character kind of learns that too, because eventually he does take the gig. So, and that's another thing too, as a musician. Sometimes you just gotta do the gig. You may hate it, but you just gotta do it.
Yeah, money's money at the end of the day. You do need it. So my second question is, because it's fresh off a win for both animated feature and score. What are your thoughts on Soul, considering that's a film that's so engrossed in jazz? Oh, here we go.
It's so weird, because like initially I liked it, and then eventually I was kind of like, it's weird. I mean, again, there's jazz elements in it, sure, but I think the whole point of the movie is more about the character missing the point, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
he was so focused on quote unquote being a real jazz musician, whatever the fuck that means, um, that he kind of misses the point of like sometimes life is more than just you playing jazz. You know what I mean? Like he didn't see the influences he was having on his students. He didn't see the influences he was having on his own family members of the people he associates with. He didn't see how like people kind of viewed him either because he was so about just one thing, and life isn't just one thing. You know what I mean? Speaking of like again TikTok and social media, how some of these people just like the one thing I gotta have that viral moment, that one thing,
Right. Absolutely.
and it's like you're missing out on so much cooler shit, dude. Like you're missing out on so much cool shit. Like life has so much to offer. And I think that was more the point of the film. So I didn't mind it. I was, if we're speaking about like, I was expecting more jazz in it. So like the little bit of jazz I got, I was like, it's not. I don't know if I can call it like a jazz film. Like it has
It's really not.
a couple of moments, but like La La Land and Whiplash is way more jazz and soul. But movie's fine. It's not my personal favorite Pixar film. It didn't.
Okay.
It didn't impact me like previous Pixar films.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Like there's like what was the one that came out before this one? Was it? It wasn't Inside Out. It was shoot, what came
The
out?
most recent one.
Yeah, prior to Soul. What was it?
Well, Onward was last year as well.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Onward. Onward. The end of it crushed me.
oh yeah,
Like I was a bawling mess, and like, and that's usually what I associate Pixar for. So that's probably why I'm a little sour on Soul, because like it's a good message. I'm not saying it's not a good message or it's not a good movie. It's a
it's
good
just
movie,
not
but
quite as emotionally hard hitting.
yeah. And I appreciate the themes as a creative. Like I get it. And it was like a good little
Yeah,
reminder like yeah, you're the music guy, but like remind people and remind yourself you're not just a music guy. So, yeah.
absolutely.
I
Well,
don't know if that answers your question.
hey, that's been the whole point of this episode, right? It's kind of like how I hear musicians describe jazz. It was very free flowing. It was kind of all over the place, but in the end, I think we really made something here. David, thank you. If that sounded terrible, I don't play jazz music. I'm sorry, but David, thank you so much for coming on, man. Please
Yeah.
go ahead and plug your stuff. Where can people find your music? All that.
Well, you can go follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DavidBMusic21. Currently, I am streaming on Twitch on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Usually, it's live music streams, so you can go check me out at twitch.tv/DavidBMusic21 as well. I have an album called Sunday Beats. It's just instrumental beats that I made really for content creators and streamers to have music in the background of the streams so that you can use that music copyright free. I'm not going to copyright strike you or anything. Just stream it from wherever you get your music. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Deezer, Napster. Yeah, I'm on Napster, bro.
Hey.
David B Music. The album is Sunday Beats. And finally, I got two podcasts I do as well. Speak Freely Pod with my good friend Brian, where we literally just talk about all the stuff we like: movies, comic books, food, what have you. We recently did our top comic book Batman storyline, which was really interesting. We had on Aiden Cossack, who's like a good dude that I've met through the sphere of like the internet and all that stuff too. And then I have finally a monster podcast called Men Amongst Monsters, where currently we're going through all the Godzilla movies ever made ever. You can go
Nice.
You can check that out everywhere you get your podcasts. Yeah.
Thank you, man. And thank you so much for coming on. I would
Yeah.
love to have you back. Whether we get an actual focused interview or we just get another great conversation, man, I don't care.
It is weird how this ended up. I was like, all right, what am I gonna say about music? And then we started talking about man, these kids. Am I right?
This is the deepest episode we've ever done.
Hey man, we jazzed it up. We improvise. That's what we do.
We spent 20 minutes on minors, and there's not one minor in the Schmoedown, but who cares?
Yeah. There's
No,
probably not any kids watching this either, but they probably should. They might learn a thing or two. Those little shits.
possibly. And that's a great way to end it. Guys, thank you so much, David. Again, I would love to have you back. This was incredible. I hope all of you guys watching enjoyed. Please be sure to check out everything else that we have here on the channel. Every Monday at 7 p.m. EST, that is when SchmoeTalks goes up. Check out every episode every week, as I have some more great interviews coming down the road. And also, aside from that, the continuation of the flashback series we've been working on. I've kind of put a hold on that for a minute to get some of these interviews in, but I've had a great time doing the interviews, so I'm more than happy to take a break from kind of the group videos. Also, being honest, they're just a bitch to schedule. On top of that, check out all the other content that we have on the channel. Tuesday afternoons, we have Cancel This Show. It is a political show, If You Dare, hosted by Alan Shepard and Matt Beer. Every Friday, our own Nikki Sullivan is doing reviews currently of Star Wars The Bad Batch. We'll be back with full-on panel reviews for shows when Loki releases in June. On Saturdays at 9 p.m. EST, we have After Dark. That's our weekly hangout show where we talk about all the latest in the world of movie news and whatever else we decide to bring up. And on Sundays, we have the Supernova Show with Colton Roberts. All your geekiest desires are brought up in one place, then and there. That's at noon EST. Once again, David, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to all of you for watching, and we will see you guys next time. Take care.